in my life, and she used to tell me that what you want to become in your life. And she was giving me courage in the field of service. With that, I was able to come out in a 6 month from home. I surrendered, and within a few years, I became responsible for service in Africa. That everything is the Dadi who was giving me guidance, and Dadi was the one who taken me first time in Madhuban, and I met Baba, and that time, with the help of Dadi, I was able to communicate with Bap Dada, and that time, the first meeting, Dadi became instrument that my name changed from Ranjan to Vedanti, and that Dadi Janki became instrument for that. So I appreciate a lot, and still she is my friend, and I get so much inspiration from her every step.
Dadi taught me also how not to think about the past. I remember once sharing with her. I asked her, Dadi, time to time my mind thinks about the past. And Dadi told me, past is past. The one who gave any pain or sorrow to you, that story is past now. Now is present. It's not the person who is suppressing you, it's your memory which is causing you suppression. At the present, you keep your mind connected with God to experience His peace and power and love. Continue your journey of life like this so that you don't miss out your inheritance of peace and love from God. I remember that and I put in my life.
And remembering Dadi's blessing, I wrote to say that I was opening a centre in Sydney in early 1976. She'd also told me about serving in the whole world, and this happened with time. We opened several centres in Australia before Dadi Prakash Mani asked me to go to Brazil in 1979. And with Baba's help and Dadi Janki's blessing and the cooperation of the local souls, the service in Brazil expanded at a fast rate. And Dadi would inspire me to always put others in front and to keep opening new places, not stay still. We not only opened many centres in Brazil, but I started to visit nearby countries. And we began those centres all over the place.
Dadi for me is accurate and joyful, wise and innocent, loveful and detached. Dadi planted in me a seed of love for God, love for study, for the study, the spiritual study, spiritual knowledge, love for learning, and love for service with a strong will.
In 1975, I met Dadi Janki for the first time. I was living in London and I went to the Spiritualist Association of Great Britain, and she was giving a talk there. And as soon as I saw her, I had such a feeling of what a special person she was, and I absolutely loved her face. Her face was so expressive of all the lovely feelings that she was holding inside. And I've been with the Brahmakumaris for nearly 46 years. And, next to God, I would say Dadi Janki's had more of an impact on my life than anybody.
Dadi Janki was always a big part of my Brahmin life. I took Gyan in Malaysia, but after a few months I went to the UK to my mother for a visit. But before I went to London and met Dadi. Dadi taught me how to purify my relationships and become a conqueror of attachment. She supported me. She helped me feel close, but she never once let me cling to her in a worldly way. I recall one time arriving and Daddy so pleased to see me, that big beaming smile. And so when it was time to go back to the East, I had a lift in the car that Daddy was traveling in, and I thought, oh, I'll take leave from Daddy. But Daddy got out of the car, walked into the building, didn't even look at me. And I was gutted. I felt hurt, rejected, abandoned, so many big emotions. But afterwards I realized what Daddy had done. Don't have expectations in a human way of me.
Good evening. When I think about Daddy Yankee, the first things I remember is his eyes, her eyes, how she looks with courage, with sensibility, with serenity, with a strong. Her strong is into her eyes, and how he casts pass this energy to me.
I remember that in 2005, we had organized an international program called Call of the Time. And she came for that, but she arrived one day later. She arrived and the program had already started. And after such a long trip from India to London, then to Brazil, we thought that she would be so exhausted because she was already more than 85 at that time. And we thought that she would go and rest, but she didn't want to rest. She went straight into the class, into the gathering, to meet everyone, to see everyone, to give love and share her vibrations with everyone. And everyone became so enthusiastic.
Overall, when I think of Dadi Janki, I think of her entire life, actually. I think of the time when she came to Baba, to the Yagya in those early days. She came a little later than the other Kumaris and sisters there at that time. But when she came, she made up for that time. She went on the ground. She did a lot of spiritual work on herself silently underground to achieve what she did in the end. And this is something that is an example for me, how using her commitment, her courage, her faith, and silence, she went underground and she did what she needed to do.
Our Dadi Ji, my spiritual mom, Janki. It's very easy to speak about beautiful things that happen in my spiritual life. And the first time that I met her, in my heart, I felt she is my grandmother. There is connection. She loves music, put me to sing, always. And I feel that the music is a blessing in my BK life. And when I begin to grow in the Baba's knowledge, I was passing by a problem, old sanskars that came from the change. And I had the fortune to say for her. And she gave me very special directions. No. And with the directions, she gave me strength. This is the difference of an angel.
My thoughts about Dadi Janki. For me, Dadi Janki was absolutely magical. She was an instrument for God, and she had this divine energy around her, and she really knew how to make you feel special, and always the energy of upliftment.
Dadi Janki, for me, is an angel of good wishes and pure feelings. She always had unlimited feelings for all souls in the world. Dadi Janki for me is also an embodiment of generosity. She keeps giving, giving and giving. She don't keep anything for herself. She has left with us the legacy of wisdom and love, which we will continue to cherish for the rest of our life.
Om Shanti. I'm Aidan. Dadi for me was awesome, awe-inspiring. She still is. She remains one of the most impactful, powerful, incredible, and also very fierce human beings that have ever impacted on my life. I remember her every day. Dadi, you're still there.
Dadi Janki was my spiritual teacher, but also my best friend. Always caring, always available, always ready to guide me and telling me, you can do more, you can be more. Dadi Janki was a great spiritual master. For her, nothing was unimportant. Every aspect of life, she polished it to spiritual perfection. And so it was my great fortune and amazing gift to have someone like Dadi Janki in my life.
And if there is something that she has planted in my life, it is the seed of being subtle, or the practice of subtlety. Because I did not meet Dadi Janki early in the years of my study and knowledge, and I only met her 5 years after I came into the knowledge, when I started coming to Madhuban on a regular basis every year. And I would always have the chance to meet her, even though it's in groups, that there is always a chance to meet her during this last 5 years. But during the first 5 years of my study, I was somehow in a remote area.
I'm standing on the exact spot where I was with Dadi. We were in the car together, and she was visiting where I live, which is 25 miles from the center. And I asked Dadi, what does surrender mean? And she immediately replied, it's not about living in the center. It's not about wearing a white sari.
Dadi Janki really gave me my sense of self-worth. There were so many times that Dadi had such high vision of me that I didn't even have for myself, whether it was in terms of personal progress, whether it was in terms of the service in the Middle East, or whether it was in terms of fulfilling projects, retreats, etc.
Dadi Drishti was so powerful and still remain deeply imprinted in all of us. Dadi Janki gave me so much love and power and inspiration for so many years. For decades, she gave her attention, time and support.
Daddy's gaze, her eyes, captivated me from the beginning. This useful, compassionate embrace deep from the soul. Later on Mount Tabu, on Shabbat, I was welcomed by these eyes to sing my traditional song asking protection from the administering angels of the Almighty.
Dadi Janki for me is the inner strength and presence. She inspired me to look at life in a compassionate way. Through her, I learned to open my heart and trust in life. Dadi Janki invited me to have a tea in her house in India. When she offered me a gift with a drasdi,
When I think of Dadi Ji, I think of accuracy and discipline. So once we BKs were meeting Dadi Janki Ji, and there were many things to be given as gifts and blessing cards and some brochures and some other things. So really I was just observing Dadi, that Dadi Ji herself started keeping all the things in an envelope, blessing cards and brochure and this card and that card, and very accurately she started closing each envelope and started giving to each one of us. So really it touched my heart and it always stayed with me.
3 बार ओम शांति बोलना, पवित्रता की शक्ति, प्रेम की शक्ति, एकता की शक्ति, संगठन की शक्ति, ये दादी ने जैसे कि अपनी आध्यात्मिक शक्ति से एक स्तंभ हर जगह क्रिएट किया। और स्वमान की शक्ति तो स्वाभाविक रीति से थी दादी में, जो हमको प्रेरणा देती है कि स्वमान की संपन्नता, स्वमान की शिखर पर जिसमें अभिमान का नाम नहीं था।
Dadi Janki steered newness, breaking every limit whatsoever you could imagine for yourself. In spite her very impressive credentials, Dadi Ji remained innocent and humble with a childlike lightness, combined with the wisdom of deepest sage. She kept herself in thorough alignment with God's pure purpose while being with everyone else.
To me, in one sentence, Dadi Ji is the unlimited ocean of love, just like the Almighty Father. And what has inspired me most about Dadi to change my life is the way in which she touches everyone with that wonderful sense of belonging and love, and that focus on specialities, which then inspires that person, that true faith that inspires that person to reach out and give that return and emerge those specialities and make their life wonderful.
Hola amigos, soy Ima Sanchís, periodista, la que hace la contraportada de La Vanguardia, La Contra. Recuerdo haber entrevistado hace muchos años a Dadi Janki y recuerdo, después de 23 años de entrevistas, el titular. El titular era "Miraros a los ojos". No es cualquier cosa lo que dijo. Miraros a los ojos de verdad, en profundidad. Encontraréis al ser humano que hay ahí, detrás de la mirada.
Dadi Janki is an epitome of love, compassion, kindness and humanity.
Dadi Janki for all of us. She holds a very special place in our hearts. And all of us have given many, many reasons of why she holds such a special place. And I feel very, very connected, very close. More than connected, I feel very close to her. And I've always felt close to her, physically, emotionally, in every way. And I've often felt her communicating with me on a very different level. Words was one thing, drishti was one way, thoughts was also another way.
I remember Daddy as always smiling, always being with a lot of humor, but also a lot of deep, deep, warm felt wisdom. And one time she told me, and this touched my heart, she said to me, you know, you should be a spiritual warrior. Everywhere you go, you are my spiritual soldier, my spiritual warrior. So every time I go up in a debate, I just think about Daddy and I think about how I am a spiritual warrior.
I can just say very briefly that if I am anything in the Brahmin world, if I contribute anything, that is entirely due to Dadi Janki. She gave me time right from the beginning. When I first came into Gyan, I didn't have a very good first meeting with her because she asked me, what is it that you're looking for? And quick as a flash, I said, peace of mind.
The moment I remember Dadi Janki, I last met her in March, just before she went into the angelic world. And I was just remembering how Dadi spent so much time when I was just taking leave from Madhuban. But the first time I saw Dadi Janki was in my Lokik uncle's house when she was making bhog, standing on a stool making bhog. And here, last I saw her, 104-year-old, still in her full memories.
Mother, take my hand, lead me to the world I understand. Mother, take me home, help me find the strength to carry on. Everything in life we have is changing. You are all I need to keep me still. Mother of love, angel of light, I'm a long lost child, so alone in the night. Mother of love, angel of light, you have saved this soul, you have given me sight. Mother, keep me warm, always be my lighthouse in the storm. And Mother, set me free, give me wings to fly eternally. Mother of love, angel of light, I'm a long lost child, so alone in the night. Mother of love, angel of light, you have saved this soul, you have given me sight. Master world, the tide of war is rising. The suffering of our children fills our eyes. of light. I'm a long lost child, so alone in the night. Mother of love, angel of light, you have saved this soul, you have woken.
फर्स्ट टाइम दादी जी लेस्टर में आई, मेरे अंदर ये इतना नशा के अष्टरत्न आत्मा वंडरफुल है, भगवान की अंदर इतना प्यार उत्पन्न हुआ, तो मेरे आँखों से मैं कितना रोकने चाहता था लेकिन रुक नहीं पाया, इतना प्यार के आंसू। तो दादी जी ने हमारे साथ नीचे बैठ के भोजन करती थी, प्रवृत्ति वालों को कैसे आगे किया जाए। तो रियली यहाँ यूके में हर प्रवृत्ति जो गीता पाठशाला का हो, कहीं तो हम सेंटर बन गए। तो तन मन धन से स्वाहा अने दादी की पालना देखो, तो एक एक जो निमित्त जो होते थे, तो ये निमित्त को एक्स्ट्रा टाइम देती थी कि ये बीज है, इनसे झाड़ निकलने वाला है। तो हमको दादी का इतना अंदर बाबा का जैसे प्यार है ना, ब्रह्मा बाबा का, ऐसे दादी ने प्यार दिया है।
I'm from Madrid and I met Dadi Janki 20 years ago in Oxford. I was very impressed by her deep look, full of tenderness and full of strength at the same time. For me, Dadi Janki is humility, peace, love, and wisdom, a constant inspiration. She strengthened me in my purpose to build a better world, and she also inspired me to take care of my spiritual life. She was a tiny woman and at the same time a great person.
Om Shanti, my name is Brother Brad from Miami, Florida. Daddy, where do I begin? So many amazing encounters over the years. My parents had both left the body within a year of each other, and I was really by that point very exhausted and worn out and quite down. And I was at the gate going down to Miami at the airport, and I decided to be a beggar, and Daddy doesn't like beggars, so I decided to write her an email, and I said, Daddy, I don't want to sound like a beggar, but I am, and I really could use some words of wisdom and whatnot, and I shut the phone off, and I got on the plane, and I get down 3 hours later, and I open the phone, and lo and behold, there's a voice message that Daddy recorded and sent to me. What touched me the most was the fact that Daddy was so busy. There were so many students in the school, and her health was not great all the time, that she actually took the time to do that within that short period of time, and that she sent that to me. So it was just the care and the love and the attention of doing that. It was just absolutely transformative, and I feel like I really changed from that day on. I really shifted. So Daddy, thank you.
Although Daddy was a spiritual giant, I just loved the way she would apply her spirituality in a very practical and down-to-earth way. I just popped into her room to say goodbye, and there was another sister there, and she was waiting to speak to Daddy. You know, she had something she wanted Daddy to clarify, and Daddy was on the phone, and it was clearly a very intense conversation. So when Daddy came off the phone, she said, let's just have a minute's quiet. Daddy turned to her, looked at her very sweetly, spoke a couple of words to her, and the sister sort of went, oh my goodness, Daddy, you've given me the answer to my concern, my question, and I haven't even asked you the question yet. And Daddy had, with a big smile on her face, said, the right thought came at the right time, and I wasn't even thinking about it.
And I was fortunate enough to first meet Dadi Janki back in 2003, when Daddy had come to my hometown of Sheffield in the north of England to give a public talk. And at the time, I'd already taken the positive thinking course at the centre and was due to take the Rajyoga Meditation course, but I hadn't yet done so. It was quite incredible meeting Dadi Janki at that time. I remember that public program quite clearly, even though it was over 17 years ago. And just Daddy's amazingly powerful presence and her wise words. Just never experienced anyone like that before. And I was fortunate enough the next day to be able to go to morning class at the center and to meet Dadi Janki in a smaller group and be able to interact with her a bit. And it was really incredible, her drishti, just making that contact with her eyes, just this feeling of meeting an old friend and having that feeling of trust, that this was a soul that I could really trust and had my best interests at heart.
One of my favorite memories of Dadi is from the days of my childhood. I arrived in Madhavan in 1990, and when I met Dadi, she asked me the question, she said, "Rita, are you a BK?" And through my own heart's commitment that I could respond that yes, Dadi, I was a BK. Although I knew in my heart that I was a BK, I wasn't sure how to get there from where I was in my life, living in a household, holding a full-time job. And so here I am, 31 years later, with even a bigger space in my heart for, just loving Dadi, for all of the encouragement, all of the nourishment, all of the love that she shared during all of those years that have helped me to move forward on my journey and to come to this place that my heart is full of Baba's love and my love for Dadi.
Dadi is the winner of the heart. For me, Dadi is my role model, the creator, the director, and the hero actor of the drama. She always had very high hopes, very high vision, and very elevated feelings for all.
Hello. I have written some words to honor Dadi Janki and her presence in my life. My life has a before and after meeting Brahmakumaris, directed at that time by this beautiful woman. The understanding and comprehension of everything that happened in my life is only my responsibility. I end with a phrase that I learned here, which is my personal mantra. If I change, the world changes.
It's been my great fortune to have lived with Dadi. It was a great privilege to have had Dadi being my guide. She was the one who inspired me to be engaged in Baba's service. Dadi was the one who told me to leave my job and start serving in Baba's office during the Million Minutes of Peace. And from that time onwards, it was really wonderful to have had such close guidance from Dadi Janki as well as Jayanti Ben and Sudesh Ben during those years. I remember Dadi inspiring us to actually have so much faith in ourselves because she herself trusted us and had that faith.
दादी जानकी बहुत ज्ञान की गहराई में जाती थी, एक तो ये। दूसरा, दादी जानकी का बहुत ध्यान रहता था यज्ञ की इकोनॉमी के ऊपर। एक टाइम हम जब मधुबन से दादी से छुट्टी लेके बॉम्बे गए और हम दूसरे दिन लंदन आ रहे थे वाया बॉम्बे, तो वहाँ कोलाबा सेंटर बॉम्बे में है, बिल्कुल वही बिल्डिंग में रहते थे। तो रात को 10 बजे दादी का फ़ोन आया कोलाबा सेंटर में, तो मेरे को रतन से बात करनी है। बोला दादी हम कल तो आपको मिल के आए थे। बोला नहीं, मैं आपको आज बहुत याद कर रही थी, बहुत प्यार से याद कर रहे थे, इसके लिए फ़ोन किया। ज्ञान का आधार है स्नेह और यज्ञ के कारोबार का आधार है इकोनॉमी। तो दादी से मैंने ये शिक्षा स्वरूप में लाके प्रैक्टिकल जीवन में लाई।
Dadi Janki loved God with all of her heart, and she extended that love to all of humanity.
Baba planted
a very powerful seed in my life through Dadi Janki. At the age of 9, I was first able to come across to Dadi, and I witnessed her loving drishti and compassionate love towards such a young soul. And Dadi was so far-sighted. She is my mother, my mentor, and my spiritual guide.
जब मैं 7 साल की थी तो मैं दादी जानकी से फर्स्ट टाइम मिली थी यहाँ लंदन बाबापुर में, और मुझे बहुत याद है, मुझे बहुत खुशी हुई। तो दादी जानकी ने शुरू से हमेशा बाबा की बहुत भाषणाएं दी, और जो बाबा को जो अच्छा लगता था वो दादी हम लोगों के साथ शेयर करती थी। तो दादी मेरे लिए जैसे एक गाइड बनी, टीचर थी और एक सच में एक फ्रेंड थी। और दादी से हमने ये सीखा कैसे हमेशा हर बात में एक्टिव, एक्यूरेट और अलर्ट रहना। सच्चाई और सफाई हमने दादी से सीखा, और जो भी सेवाएं हम यहाँ निमित्त है तो वो दादी की प्रेरणा ही से हम आज सेवा के निमित्त हैं।
Daddy every year would come once a year, twice a year to London and spend a lot of time with all of us, giving us a lot of sustenance and just that powerful feeling of who I am and who do I belong to and what do I need to do. I've known Daddy all my life from the age of 10. I remember I would go visit her in Tennyson Road and she would always have a loving and caring vision of me. And she always had this vision that one day that I would come to the centre. When I came to the centre 25 years ago, this feeling that came to my mind was, this is Daddy's thought, this is Daddy's vision.
I think she knew all of us very, very well. I didn't spend that lot of time with her, but I think she knew me very well. Often we'd have programs at our centre and she would come and I would be around, maybe in the kitchen. I'd always pick up a signal from her that come and help me with Toli. And I'd come out and there she was beckoning me to come to her, and she'd give Toli to a gathering of more than a few hundred. I would sit there, enjoy that experience and feel her powerful vibrations, and I took so much benefit from that. Our Daddy was so generous. Things would come in one hand and go out of another. I witnessed that. I learnt so much from her, treated us all, including me, with so much respect.
Dadi became a very important part of our lives on our spiritual journey as well as our personal lives. She was always there to guide us. Uncle was not in very good health and she herself was not feeling well. She was in the hospital in London. Dadi discharged herself from the hospital and boarded the plane the next day, arrived in Toronto. From the airport, she came directly to Auntie and Uncle's home. It was such a beautiful meeting. I feel that this was who Dadi truly was. This is how she lived, how she sustained every soul with that compassion in her heart, with benevolent feelings, and in that lifelong friendship.
We're remembering Dadi Janki, who passed away just a year ago in March 2020. She really had an incredible life, and she is an incredible individual. She was small in size, but yet truly a spiritual giant. And in fact, somebody who knew her quite well and wrote a foreword to one of her books described her as someone who had the guts of 1,000,000 elephants. So she, for me, was a living example of what it means to serve tirelessly, unendingly. Thank you, Daddy, for being in my life.
Dadi Janki for me was a spiritual mentor who I had known very closely. We went for our first walk, and as we went for our walk, she held my hand, and the first feeling that I got was a friend held my hand. Such a powerful yogi, such a powerful soul, and yet it felt like she knew me and I knew her. And when we went for a walk, she would chat with me so sweetly and so encouragingly. And that was the moment where she touched my heart. Dadi, you are the one who has mastered the art of the mind. They say that the mind is the most powerful thing and the most difficult thing to conquer, and you have done it. Thank you for showing the way. Om Shanti.
Dadi Janki has been an inspiration for many, many things. But just to mention a few, that love for spiritual study and also taking interest in sharing it. I remember early on when I came to BK's, she reminded me not to be confused miserly in sharing. She knew that I used to shy away from those things. Second thing that comes to my mind is that trust in Rama, Baba, family, and my own part. The other things that come to my mind is how she used to always inspire us not to compare, because we are all very unique, and our fortune is in our hands that God has given. And the way to create our fortune is through meditation, through seva. Also from Dadi you learned about the tirelessness. She was always wanting to serve, never thinking about her own physical needs as much. But yet when you asked her